The Colosseum was packed, but the silence was absolute. No gladiator bled in that arena, no lion roared, not a sword was raised. What made the crowd go silent was something much more powerful: words. Not said by an emperor, nor by a general, but by an unknown woman, with a firm face and an intact voice. The people who used to scream for blood now trapped the air in their lungs. The Roman Senate, which was above the gods, trembled at phrases that tore the marble of hypocrisy. And there, on that dusty afternoon, Rome discovered that the most feared empire in the world could be overthrown with just one speech. Because this woman did not speak out of fear. She spoke with scars, and what she said, no one has ever forgotten. She did not wear a noble toga, nor did she come from a senatorial family. His voice had not been trained in courts, but every word seemed carved into the fire of injustice. Rome did not fear her for what she possessed, but for everything she refused to accept. When someone survives grief, hunger, and loss, something inside changes. She didn't want glory, she didn't seek fame. What moved that woman was the memory of a people crushed by imperial arrogance. She was the muffled cry of thousands who were never heard. Her name began to circulate among the alleys like a hidden ember, and Rome, accustomed to dominating by fear, began to feel a discomfort that no sword could silence. Because it was not she who threatened the empire, it was the truth she carried. And if you've made it this far, it is because something inside you is also bothered by injustice, by forced silence, by the arrogance of the powerful. So don't let this story die in the shadows. Leave your like as a sign that the truth still finds an echo. Subscribe to the channel, not as the one who just watches, but as the one who carries the torch forward. And in the comments write, "I carry the truth." Because when one voice rises, others awaken. And today, yours could be next. The empire looked perfect on the outside. Marble columns, statues of gods, time-defying aqueducts. But underneath it all, what was there was a rotting heart. Rome maintained order with invisible chains, fear, silence, and spectacle. He fed the people with bread while filling the coffers with blood. And when someone dared to speak, disappeared. It was the empire of don't ask. Kings were beheaded, peoples were erased. History was written only by the victors, and anything that contradicted this was a lie by decree. In this suffocating scenario, where even thought was watched, that woman emerged. And not like a torch, but like a bonfire about to set fire to the theater of false Roman glory. She endured it in silence for a long time, but one day Rome went too far. It was not enough to take taxes nor to burn crops. They took her brother, a young man who never wielded a sword, accused of conspiracy for simply reading poetry with the people. He disappeared without a body, without explanation, without a grave. Then came the soldiers. They burned their village as exemplary punishment. And in the midst of the ashes, between screams and bones, something was born that Rome could not erase, a woman determined to speak. It was there that her fear died, because when you have nothing left to lose, every word becomes ammunition. And while the generals planned new conquests, she planned her speech, not to take revenge, but to reveal. And the truth, when said in public, it has more impact than 1,000 spears. She entered the Senate without handcuffs, but with her soul bearing scars. He didn't tremble, don't smile. He just walked, as if he had already buried everything he loved. The senators were expecting a broken woman. They received a force that they did not know how to name. And then she spoke, not with political eloquence, but with the precision of someone who bled. He appointed corrupt generals. He described the bodies of children buried under the ashes of Roman glory. He spoke of those who were hungry while the palaces served banquets. Every sentence was a blow, each word a mirror. She didn't scream, and precisely for that, everyone listened. The truth that no one dared to say was said there, out loud, without fear, and Rome, for the first time, had to face its own monstrosity without being able to flee. No senator countered, no guard dared to touch her, no laughter was heard, just silence. A thick, almost sacred silence that ran down the corridors like a contained lament. Some tried to look away, others pretended to write something, just so as not to face the truth that it opened. The throne seemed lower, the columns less imposing. Rome was not being destroyed by enemy armies, but unmasked by a woman who refused to lie. Outside, people were already whispering his name, not as a myth, but as a mirror. Because when someone has the courage to say what everyone feels, a new era is born. She did not leave applauded. She was feared. And for an empire that had kills by a crooked look, this was the greatest sign that the world was about to change. The next day, everything changed, but no one dared to speak out loud. Records were burned. Secret orders circulated, erase her name, erase what was said. But it was too late. Slaves murmured excerpts of the speech in marches. Women copied words on hidden fabrics. Young people scrawled phrases on the walls. The attempt at censorship only fueled the fire. Even soldiers began to repeat one of the phrases in secret. There is no weaker empire than the one that fears words. Rome tried to bury a seed and ended up watering a revolution. Because when the truth finds an echo in the heart of a people, it spreads like an invisible root. No matter how many walls are raised, what she said was already alive, and the empire knew it. She disappeared. No one knew if she was exiled, executed, or if she fled to live among those who still resisted. But his absence only increased his presence. Where her name was crossed out, someone rewrote it. Where documents were burned, hand-engraved copies emerged. His speech began to be staged in clandestine theaters, whispered in taverns, and recited by children in alleys. She became more than a woman. She became a symbol. The powerful called her a danger. The people of hope. In times of oppression, his memory was a constant spark, reminding everyone that empires can fall, but ideas don't die. Rome, with all its military strength, could not stop the word it uttered, because her courage no longer needed a voice. Now it was echo. This history is not stuck in the past. It is a dangerous reflection of the now, because we still live in days when the truth bothers more than lies, and those who dare to speak become a threat. This woman humiliated Rome not with shouts, but with lucidity. And this is what scares the powerful the most, when someone without a title, without weapons, without protection, he decides not to be silent anymore. The world still tries to silence those who denounce, those who dream, those who point out the absurd. But her legacy proves there is no structure so solid that it can resist the truth when it is spoken with courage. And maybe, just maybe, the world today needs more voices like hers, not to repeat the speech, but to continue the echo. Because true revolution doesn't start with swords. It starts with someone saying, enough. Sometimes what challenges the world most is not an army. He is an ordinary person who decides not to bow down. If this story ignited something inside you, don't let it go away, because the silence of the good is what sustains the empires of the bad. Leave your like not as an automatic gesture, but as a sign that you listened. Sign up, not as a spectator, but as someone who carries that flame. And in the comments write, I won't shut up, because every time one voice rises, another reminds itself that it can also speak. Rome fell, but the echo of that woman, it still resonates. And now, it has come to you. What are you going to do with it? If this story has reached you, If at any time you felt something awaken inside you, then understand this was not just a video, it was a calling. Because when a narrative touches the soul, it cannot be ignored. And if it transformed you, even if only a little, give something in return, not out of obligation, but for honor. Leave your like as a sign that this message has found a home. Subscribe to the channel, not just as a viewer, but as someone who values the power of a truth told with courage. And in the comments write, "This story changed me." Because when something changes us, the best response is to spread that transformation to the world.